You're listening to SMSF Connect podcast on iRadio Live that brings you programs covering a variety of genres under development.
Welcome to our podcast series, Let's Connect, where we delve into the minds of sustainability leaders shaping the world for better. Today, we are honored to have with us Mr. Nishant Gupta, who's the Social and Environmental Impact Advisor to Walmart.org in India. He's got over 16 years of diverse experience across the industries and functions. Nishant, thank you very much for accepting our offer to be here with us. So let's start with your professional story. First, I was looking at your LinkedIn page that actually told me the diverse experience that you have. Your background spans various industries and functions. I read that from product development to marketing and supply chain management. How has all this actually diverse experience put you into this safe space of sustainability and social impact?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I think one of the things that is still common despite multiple stints in various roles remains this keen goal to achieve scale, right? And how do you achieve scale to create a lasting and meaningful impact, right? In whatever stream that we worked in or whatever stream that I have been involved in, the goal has been the same, right? So, and some of these skills are very fungible irrespective of which industry or which function are you in. And I'm happy that whatever I've learned in those domains, be it marketing or business development or e-commerce, technology, etc., everything is fungible to be deployed for our work with smallholder farmers. So happy to be here.
Very interesting. So the base was was offered to you in all streams. That's very interesting. So Nishant, Walmart is a global leader in retail, known for its commitment to making a positive impact in people's lives and the planet. Could you tell us a bit more about the mission of the organization and how Walmart Foundation and its programs are aligned to that?
So Walmart believes in a shared value approach. So what it believes is that for a lasting change to happen, an organization should consider the viewpoints of its suppliers, its customers, its associates, communities, as well as the planet, right? So when you take into account all of these perspectives, you have what we call as a shared value approach, where we believe communities benefit the best if they work with the markets. Now, as we all know, a lot of communities unfortunately are not able to for multiple reasons, and that is where we look at strategic philanthropy, where this capital comes and acts as a catalytic bridge to unlock the value, the potential that these communities hold. And by strengthening these communities, they then can work with markets, which then creates a virtuous cycle, creating this lasting and sustainable impact, and this can also scale up. So that's how we typically look at it in the form of shared value approach. As a manifestation of this approach, we have something called Market Access Program, which the Walmart Foundation runs. The Market Access Program essentially works towards strengthening the market access, of course, as the name suggests, for the smallholder farmers. And then there are multiple pathways on how you achieve that, but the overall intent remains: how do you strengthen the market access for smallholder farmers?
Yes, and a very interesting initiative of Walmart is the Market Access Program for smallholder farmers in India. Tell us more details about it, some insights, how this program is being implemented, its reach and its impact so far.
So in India, we launched the Market Access Program in 2018 with a commitment to fund programs to the tune of about $25 million. Okay. And last year we did an impact evaluation in 2023 to see what have we done in the last few years, and I'm happy to report that what we figured was that Not just that we invested about $39 million in the work on market access, but our programs were designed to reach about 8 lakh farmers, and more than half of them were women.
Wow.
Right? And these spanned across multiple grants, these spanned across multiple grantee organizations, and all varied kind of projects. And there has also been a learning curve on that. So initially we were doing a lot of programs where we were training smallholder farmers, and while those programs allowed us to attain a certain reach, but the measurement on the impact that it was creating on livelihoods, on market linkages, was very hard to assess.
Okay.
And when we dwelled deeper and looked at the global learnings, we figured that a better way to approach the same problem statement would be to leverage farmer collectives, which in India's case is the farmer producer organizations. So when you do that, and when you leverage them as this catalytic bridge to connect the smallholder farmers with markets, the program of market access has assumed a very, very different proportion, both in terms of scale as well as in terms of the impact that it's creating.
Interesting. And it's actually very inspiring to know that 50% of them are actually women. Partnership with NGOs have been instrumental in upward graph of social responsibility initiatives to drive positive change. Could you tell us about the outcome of these partnerships, especially in projects like strengthening farmer producer organizations, and also what is the way forward and plans of Walmart to ensure that the continuity of these interventions remain?
I think we have been engaging with a lot of grantee organizations. We fund projects basis the theory of change that the prospective grantee organization proposes. Now, some believe that a better way to, or a more impactful way to create lasting change is through water-based initiatives. Some people believe value addition brings a lot more farmers closer to the market. Some organizations may believe strengthening the governance of the FPOs can do that, mobilizing more farmers can do that. So what we essentially do is that we rely very heavily on the theory of change of the respective organization. They connect with the farming communities, what skill and what impact areas have they gotten great feedback on, and we essentially back the organization, we back the project by the organization, and that's how we have been looking at these grants in the last few years.
Okay. So what are the salient outcomes of this relationship?
So when you look at the NGOs that we work with and their relationship or their projects that we are funding, there are multiple elements to it. One element is, of course, how do you strengthen the governance of the FPO, right? How do you ensure that the FPO is always being governed professionally, conforming to all the requirements of the laws that exist in the country. They also should be aware of how to mobilize the farmers, connect with the farmers, because a lot of these FPOs are also being run by farmers, right? So how do you build capacities in these farmers to act as business people, right? And that is one part of the job. Then you have to engage with the farmers. How do you build capacities in the farmers towards better agricultural practices, becoming more climate change resilient, incorporating the gender element as to how do you give voice to the women farmers both at a farm level as well as at the farmer collective level. So a lot of these work streams are very inherent and ingrained in the projects that we fund. So yes.
Okay, very interesting. So you mentioned that there are, you build the capacities in the project and also make them financially independent. So is that a part of your sustainability plan?
Yeah, so when we look at these projects, we signal expectations at the time of proposal itself. And one of the questions we do ask is that how does this program or a project become self-sustainable after the interventions are over? And some of the other elements which I missed out in mentioning the previous question were critical are the access to finance and access to markets, right? Once you have built the capacities of the farmers and the FPOs, then the next logical step is what do you do with the produce that the farmers are creating, right? And then you have the need for access to capital, and then of course finding buyers and creating these market linkages, which then become a critical part of the projects. And once you have that virtuous cycle kicking, where the farmers are working increasingly on more sustainable agricultural practices, the FPO is able to mobilize the farmers or the shareholders that it has, and you have access to capital and market, you have a good model that works at scale.
But in spite of, a lot of energy that these partnership brings, what are still the strengths and also the challenges faced by these FPOs in the current times?
I think some of the challenges are fairly obvious. One is what I mentioned, that FPOs are run and governed by farmers themselves, right? So how do you ensure the outlook changes towards them being run as social enterprises? So how do you have the farmers run it as social enterprise, is one. Then unlocking access to finance and marketing is actually one of the biggest challenge, but it is also the biggest enabler once overcome, right? So you have to start with what the customer is looking for, and then translate it into something that the farmers can work on, right? And that is where I think grassroots level organizations as well as FPOs are able to do that very, very effectively, and they're the only ones who can do it very effectively because they are sitting in the middle of the markets as well as the farmers. So they are the ones who understand the market expectations and translate for the farmers.
So, as one of the partner organizations, we know that Walmart and Sehgal Foundation has been conducting a couple of projects together. So, tell us something about that partnership.
So, Walmart Foundation funded a project with SMSF Foundation in 2021. The project aimed to work with 10 FPOs, strengthen them with a reach of about 10,000 farmers. And in a couple of years, we have seen great results coming out of it. So we are happy to report that SMSF Foundation was in fact able to have a consolidated reach of 30,000 farmers, 30,000 people in a brief amount of 2.5 years, which is commendable in itself. SMSF Foundation was also able to strengthen these 10 FPOs across the 2 states of Uttar Pradesh and Karnataka. They were also able to impart training to all farmers around sustainable agricultural practices, helping them in increasing their yields, and then at the same time improving the gender participation in agriculture. And I'm happy to report on the back of the great work, we have just announced another project with SMSF Foundation to actually expand the reach of this one, the older project, where now we aim to reach about 23 FPOs.
Wow.
With a reach of 23,000 farmers. We have gone further to say that more than half of these farmers should be women farmers. So we will work with that intent, and we will ensure that we are also looking to establish the market linkages and business development for these FPOs, so that the virtuous cycle that I was mentioning earlier, the loop is complete. So I think this is a very good logical next project built on the back of what we have already achieved.
So many congratulations to the partners, to the communities especially. Nishant, you spoke about the importance of women participation that is involved in your project. And I believe the success of any social project hinges on active community involvement. So in your perspective, how do you see diversity, equity and inclusion play a role in uniting communities and ensuring long-term sustainability of the project?
Right. So the way we look at it is at multiple levels, right? So the first one is that when we receive the proposals from various organizations for various projects, we signal our expectations there, right? Be it requesting for the organization to share their own diversity and inclusion policies, to declare how many women are there in the board, how many women are going to be there in the project staff, and then of course signaling expectations in the project outcomes. And for us, measurement is critical. So what we do is that and depending of course on the project, there are multiple contours that it could take. So it could be gender participation at the farm level, to say how many women farmers were capacitated, or what percentage of women farmers were there in the board of directors of the FPOs that we work with, and then some qualitative measurement on the improvement in agency of women when we speak to the women at the farm level, right? So depending on the interventions, these are some of the steps that we take. We also signal expectations in terms of disaggregated data, because a lot of times combined consolidated data hides a lot of nuances. So we look at the program output for women farmers and overall project separately. We also have projects where we work exclusively for the women farmers to understand their specific needs around access to finance, or digital tools and capacity development. So it really hinges on the project, but we do keep gender at the center of our efforts, and that has been giving us great results, where our own impact evaluation last year showed that there are a lot more women in leadership in the FPO supported by the grantees that Walmart Foundation has funded. The cropping intensity, cropping diversity is higher for women farmers, and those are some of the early signs that the interventions are working.
That's so very interesting to hear. Nishant, you've been involved in the projects since the beginning, and we know that you've also been on the ground and met a lot of people, a lot of beneficiaries. Anything from the field that you carry back, any story, any anecdote that still remains in your memory?
There are quite a few actually, but if I have to pick out one, I think it was sometime last year when I was visiting a project in Uttar Pradesh, and we were talking to farmers to understand how the project interventions are getting rolled out, how do they feel about the interventions in terms of the impact that they are creating, etc. And of course, usually the farmers would give feedback on what's working and what's not working, but at a very humane level, at a very emotional level, I think one of the things that I carried with myself was the appreciation that the farmers had for the project staff, especially during the COVID times. While we have moved on, thankfully, from COVID, but in the farming communities, the recall is still very strong as to how suddenly the markets had collapsed and access to market itself had become so challenging for the farmers, and how the grantee organizations were supporting them during this difficult transition period, building resilience, and how over a period of time the support was continued to get provided to create that resilience was extremely heartwarming to hear.
So before we wrap up, Nishant, what message would you like to give to our listeners, especially the team who are working on the project site and the community?
I'm extremely grateful to the field staff. I think it takes a lot of motivation, it takes a lot of grit to be working with the farming communities in all weather and conditions, and we're extremely grateful for the work that organizations such as yours do, and it's so humbling and it's so motivating to actually see out how the teams are working on the ground, what you had imagined in a proposal is being implemented on the ground, and without that these initiatives don't mean anything but if they're not implemented on ground with the intent that the organizations had envisioned it for. So thank you to your organization itself. I think the work that you all are doing is wonderful, and it's extremely motivating for people like us to continue in the same space.
Thank you, and 3 cheers to the field team who's working on the Walmart project.
Definitely.
So as we wrap up our conversation with Nishant Gupta from the Walmart Foundation, it is clear that initiatives like the Market Access Program and strengthening of the Farmer Producer Organization, these projects are making a significant difference in the lives of smallholder farmers in India. By supporting sustainable agriculture and community development, we can create a brighter and more equitable future for all. So thank you so much, Nishant, for sharing your insights and experiences with us today through this podcast. It has been a pleasure having you with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thanks.
Thank you for being with us. Stay tuned for more. You can also listen to these podcasts on Spotify, Apple, and Google.